You see them lined up by the dozens in the parking lots of America's most popular tourist attractions and stadiums. Those big, comfortable buses, chartered by schools and groups across the country. People hot on board, headed for a good time. But a 2020 investigation reveals that passengers, like you, may be headed instead for disaster.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. So many buses sent out with shoddy maintenance, bad tires, poor brakes, even steering problems. But worse than that, we discovered an inspection system that can allow this kind of dangerous situation to continue. What Arnold Diaz uncovered is a warning. Know what you're getting into before you board a charter bus.
The Indiana State Police have a surprise in store for these charter buses from throughout the Midwest.
Go ahead and start it back up.
After dropping off their passengers at this casino in Gary, the drivers are ordered by the police to pull over for a surprise inspection. It doesn't take long for the inspectors to spot some serious safety problems.
The tire is bad. As you can see, we got tread separation starting from this point, coming on down.
It looks like the tire's falling apart.
On this bus, they discovered cracked engine supports.
If there's no support or it loses enough support, the engine would just virtually drop right out on the ground.
This bus was ordered out of service because of dangerously bad brakes.
Yeah, the brake shoes aren't even making contact with the drum.
That day, inspectors found unsafe conditions on buses from Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Illinois.
It is out of service, yes.
The bus companies say the violations have since been corrected, but the problem is more widespread than the police suspected. In the 8 months they've been doing these surprise inspections of charter buses, they've come up with an alarming statistic.
51% have been put out of service. That's just too many buses for unsafe violations.
Mel Caraway is the police superintendent.
But people who hear that 50% of the buses you look at put out of service for serious violations are going to say, gee, I wonder whether I should ride a bus.
You're right, and it is just that message we're sending. They need to be concerned.
And it's not just these Midwest passengers that need to be concerned. There are close to 300,000 charter and commercial buses operating throughout the United States, taking school kids on field trips, carrying athletic teams to sporting events, transporting groups of sightseeing tourists. What assurance is there that the charter bus you may be boarding is safe? A 2020 investigation finds that unsafe charter buses are a serious national problem. The number of deaths in charter and commercial bus accidents has nearly doubled in the past few years. Critics point the finger of blame at the Federal Department of Transportation, which has the ultimate responsibility in most cases for charter bus safety.
The public is facing a big unknown. Maybe they're getting on a safe bus and maybe they're not. But for them to say, oh, well, they wouldn't let them on the highways if they weren't safe is simply a myth.
Mary Schiava was the Department of Transportation's Inspector General from 1990 to 96. In a scathing report, her office found that the DOT's oversight system is not working, and carriers with critical safety violations continue to operate on the nation's highways.
Safety is clearly impacted. I mean, there have been many instances where safety has been compromised and lives have been lost.
In upstate New York 2 years ago, the brakes failed on a charter bus carrying a group of Quakers to a church outing. One person died and 31 passengers were injured. Defective brakes are also blamed for this New Jersey accident 5 years ago. A community group had chartered the bus for a trip to an amusement park. 2 children and 4 adults died. In Virginia, 1 man died and 29 school children were injured in July when this charter bus ran off the road and plunged into a river. Investigators say the driver was fatigued, but also found 2 of the bus's 6 brakes were not working properly. But it's here in Indiana that we decided to focus on one bus crash. A crash that reveals how a bus company can operate for years with serious safety problems and how little federal authorities will do to stop it. 2 years ago in Indianapolis, a charter bus from Hammond Yellow Coach Lines was carrying a group of football boosters back from a game. The driver took this sharply curved exit and discovered his brakes wouldn't hold.
The tires began to squeal, the bus began to rock, and someone said, is he going to make it? Is he going to make it?
George Rush was on the bus with his wife and 9-year-old son. Sandy Harrence, the football coach's wife, was aboard along with her married daughter, Julie Samble, 6 months pregnant.
We were out of control, and when we started to tip over, I mean, everybody was flying everywhere.
Bus 42 slid on its side more than 60 feet down an embankment before coming to a stop. In the darkness, Henry Rush lay motionless.
I struck my cigarette lighter to try to find Henry, and I was calling Henry. And I saw his tennis shoe, and he still would move, and I was talking to him, and I told him, come on, we got to get out of here. And I struck my lighter again, and I saw that his head was crushed. It had been crushed under the bus, between the bus and the ground.
Apparently, both Henry Rush and Julie Samble had been flung out of the bus's windows as it rolled over, crushed under its 14-ton weight. 36 other passengers were injured.
The brakes on that bus were operating at less than 50% of their capacity.
Scott Newman is the Marion County prosecutor. Investigators examining the bus discovered it had a broken speedometer, 2 balding tires, and the brakes were badly out of adjustment. And 2020 has learned these problems were no surprise to a number of the bus company's own employees. Employees who say General Manager Paul Koulis and Safety Director Angelo Koulis knew all about the dangerous condition of Bus 42.
You tell somebody over and over and over again the same thing, and nothing's ever done about it.
Brenda Drummond supervised the drivers for Hammond Yellow's 25 buses. In the week before the crash, records show, several drivers reported the broken speedometer. On the day of the accident, the driver assigned to Bus 42 refused to get behind the wheel because of the condition of the braking system. And just hours before the bus left with another driver to pick up the Boosters Club, Drummond says she again warned Paul Koulis about the brake problems.
I told him that there was something wrong with the brakes on 42 because I could hear the brakes 3 blocks away. And he said, that's just the way that type of brake should sound.
I really feel like it was murder. I feel like it was Russian roulette.
And the prosecutor agrees. Paul and Angelo Koulis were arrested and charged with 2 counts each of reckless homicide. They've both pled not guilty.